Caleb. I'll slide back a little bit. Some reason I gotta have my phone straight up and down versus that way. Landscape and portraits. I don't know why. So welcome everyone to Mazke's live stream. And today, as it was today's earlier video, it's still Wednesday, December 28th. Hang on one second. There we go. Let me just fix something here. All right. And remember, before I get started, I'll say this because this will be recorded and uploaded. So remember, as always, my disclaimer: I'm Mazke Finance. I'm in South Florida, and I'm drinking a cup of Camille tea and Bonjour all night hider. I see that. And I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a CPA. I'm not an attorney. And it's been a little hectic here running around trying to get this ready. I had issues with issues with my tablet, but I got it going. So anyway, I see there's 2 of you here now. I can never see who's here. Well, there's 5 of you here. I can never see who's here except for folks when they comment. So what I'm going to talk about real quick, and then after I finish my talk, I'll take any questions y'all may have, and hola. Take any questions you might have, but I want to talk a little bit for a few minutes here. What is wealth? Okay. And I don't think my screen's quite right here, but I'm going to run with it. It is what it is. Okay. What is wealth? We can all define it in our own way, right? And I'll give you some tips and I'll tell you what my definition is. And good evening, Salvador. Appreciate that. I see it popping up. And all nighter, I understand you're roofing, but listening as well. I appreciate it. Hello, Dividend Dave. All right. So what is wealth? Because I mentioned a lot of times in my videos, the best way to grow wealth is through real estate. You know, you can grow through stocks, but you got to put your own money into it. Real estate, you can use other people's money to put into it. So maybe I'm referencing financial wealth. Okay, is that wealth? So what is wealth? I said in a video the other day, $1 million isn't wealth. $2 million isn't wealth. Not in modern times. $5 million, okay, you're getting there. That's some wealth, okay? But that's not necessarily what I mean. What is wealth? There's a variety of other ways that are not financial ways to be wealthy, okay, to have wealth. One of them, I talked about this recently, is your health, all right? You and your loved ones, you need to stay healthy. There's a variety of ways to stay healthy. 3 big ones: what you eat, how you work out, and your sleep. And then you can throw stress in there too. You want to minimize stress, that sort of thing. But food and genetics you cannot change per se. Okay, food's a big one. You can eat healthy. And I talked about that in a video. I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but the healthier you eat, hello, Millennial Mike. And I'm glad you're working, making those big bucks. All right. So anyway, the food you eat plays a big part in your health. It plays more of a part in your health than most people realize. Real quick here is that I understand there all night hider. I'll comment on that in just a minute. Real quick here, I just watched a video 5 minutes ago. It just popped up as a suggestion from a doctor who was talking about your health, and he was talking about how our bodies create excessive blood vessels, which then feed our cancers, feed our Alzheimer's, feed our heart problems, that sort of thing. And that when we're healthy and younger, our bodies stomp out these new blood vessels, starves them out, kills them off, whatever. But he says that by eating properly, and he listed 3 things, I'll list them real quick. Broccoli sprouts, little tiny sprouts. Mushrooms, not just the top, but also the stem. And the third one, what was it? What was it? Broccoli stem. I'm forgetting. If I remember it, I'll mention it in tomorrow's video or something. Okay. So anyway, all-nighter, you said your kids bring you wealth. I agree. I have 2 sons. Both are now officers in the Coast Guard. Both of them made me wealthy. I loved raising them. I love they turned out well. They both went to governor's school. They both participated in a lot of extracurricular activities. They both are becoming financially wealthy themselves. The oldest is only 29. The youngest is 25. They both have rental properties. And I've said in a lot of videos, if you can't invest, look in the mirror. That's your excuse. Just look in the mirror. I'm looking at a camera and seeing myself. It's kind of weird. But if you look in the mirror, there's your excuse for why you can't invest. Okay. Don't blame it on your job. Don't blame it on your family. Don't blame it on your how you grew up. Don't blame it on your surroundings. Blame it on yourself. Because all of us, as long as we're not disabled mentally and or physically, we all have the capability to work a job. We all have the capability to invest, and we all have the capability to become financially wealthy. Not all of us will choose to become wealthy through our children. Hopefully, all of us will choose to become wealthy through our health. Others of us will choose to become wealthy spiritually with whatever your beliefs are. And I'm not going to get into various beliefs because there's 7 or 8 billion people in the world. And the main belief in the United States is the minority belief for the world. So take that for what you will. Okay? But wealth is what you want it to be. It could be loving your family, and that's good enough for you. You might love your job. Your job might bring you wealth. But most people would disagree with that. Okay? So what I want you all to do here, because I'm going to wrap this talk up in just a minute, think of any questions you want to ask me. All right? And topics I will answer questions on. I will not answer spam. But topics I'll answer questions on could be dealing with real estate, could be dealing with stocks, could be dealing with dividend stocks, could be dealing with my adventures with crypto, could be about oil drilling, because I invest in oil drilling. I have a portfolio of mineral rights acreage. It could be about mineral rights acreage. So what else do I invest in? I've looked at art. I've looked into wine a little bit. I've looked more so into farmland and that sort of thing. So you can ask me any question you want in regards to investing. You can ask me something I don't even invest in. And anything if I answer is my opinion, my thoughts on the moment. Because if I had time to think about something, maybe I come up with a different answer. But if I respond as soon as I see the question, then who knows what I'll say. Okay? And the tea I'm drinking, I'll have to comment on this myself. I'm drinking Camille tea, and I tried something new. I put some cinnamon in it because cinnamon is also good for us. Camille tea, they say, is good for us. But I drink sometimes 3 cups of tea a day. Primarily, I drink decaffeinated green tea. Then I also drink ginger tea, and I will drink the occasional cup of Camille tea. Okay, I may, as I call it, have the occasional bebida down on my dock. When it was chilly the last couple of days, I had no bebidas. Okay, when it's not chilly, like earlier today, I was down on my dock. Mi bebida is if this offends you, disregard, is a Guinness drought. I pour it into a glass, has the foam at the top. It's 4.2% alcohol. It does have a gram of protein, 1.1 grams of protein, I think. It has a couple small little bit of vitamins and whatnot. So take it for what you will. Okay, I'm not an alcoholic. I drink 1. If I don't sit on my dock, I drink 0. Okay, so but I drink a lot of water during the day. I eat salads every day. I eat a variety of fruits and vegetables every day. Berries, I eat nuts, I eat seeds every day. And I also think about investing every single day. Today, I got my emails in on my mineral rights acreage. Okay, so I put it all into my spreadsheet where I track my returns on mineral rights acreage and my oil drilling adventure. Oil drilling, I got the email in, I think it was Monday. I think that email came in or something like that. So that's on the same spreadsheet. I'm also getting my rent emails in. They came in just as I was starting to start this video, and I glanced down real quick. My rent for this month is going to be, I'm not positive, I think it'll be my best rent of any month this year, finally. Because I've had some low months going back a couple months ago and made help make money tight. But I'm finally getting a good month of rent, which is good. I got more rent coming in from houses that were rehabbed, which is very good. All right, and what I have down here is my tablet. So when I scroll back to see any comments or questions or whatnot, I can refer to that. All right, and I appreciate the 7 of you watching. You know, it really means a lot to me. And some of you are listening because you're working. This will be uploaded, so some folks will watch it after the fact. Anyone who comments now, those comments will disappear when it's uploaded. So if someone watches in the future, they can't see these comments. So I'll read them out loud. Okay. Are you with me? All right. So going back to the beginning. Hello, helicopter pilot Caleb. Bonjour, all-nighter hider. And hee haw, hola, helicopter pilot Caleb. I appreciate it. Salvador said, good evening. I welcome you. Thank you. Good evening. All-nighter hider, you're roofing, but listening. Stay safe on that roof. I put one roof on a house in my life. It was in extreme Southwest Virginia. It's a house I bought when I was in the Navy for $30,000. And when I got out of the Navy and moved there, someone told me the basics of roofing, and I literally put 99% of that roof on. Took the old 2 layers of shingles off and put all new shingles, tar paper, shingles, flashing, etc. Did it myself. And I said, never again. One time's enough for me. Never again. All right. Let's see. How you doing there, Dividend Dave? Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Millennial Mike, stay safe on the roads. You know, you're a trooper, as you say. Hopefully you don't work any more accidents tonight. Hopefully you have no criminals you got to arrest. Hopefully it's a safe night for you. I agree with you, all-nighter hider. My kids still bring me a wealth of joy. My youngest son will be visiting me in another week or 2. He'll be here. Maybe helicopter pilot Caleb, if you're back from your next trip, maybe you could see him. You may not be back by then. I'm not sure. All right, helicopter pilot Caleb, you said setting a goal to mountain bike or ski 100 days in 2023. Once I fire, I will do it 200 days. Caleb, great goal. I agree. Do it while you're young, because you don't know what's going to happen to you physically. I was a runner, I was a biker, I was a skier in my younger years. I loved all 3. I no longer run. I haven't biked in a while. I could bike, I think. I walk almost every evening, but I'm missing my evening walk tonight. And I haven't skied since probably Breckenridge back in the late 80s. Actually, I skied in Wisconsin when I was in the Navy up in Illinois. That might have been late 80s as well. I haven't skied since late 80s. I have scoliosis in my back. My back's twisted. I have a bad back. And I have bad knees because of my twisted spine. That's what one doctor's theory is. That's why my knees, the cartilage is chipping up in there. But I still walk almost every single night, except for tonight. Dividend Dave said, wealth is having options and a home in Gary. I agree 100%. Wealth is having a lot of options. And also one thing I can talk about is my potential move to the country of Panama. What I like about that Panama, what about that country, why I want to live there, so on and so on. Let's see. Millennial Mike said, probably good to talk about your free house and Burr and the good and the bad of Burr. And Dividend Dave replied, a lot of people have been experiencing burrs with all this cold weather, Mike. All right, so let me finish this real quick and I'll talk on Burr. All-nighter said drinking water is super important. I agree. I drink water multiple cups every day. Dividend Dave asked, how long did it take for you to become accredited? All right, I'll answer that in a minute. And I want Mike to say that a crash right now. Stay safe there, Mike. All right, so Burr, good and the bad. I'll tell you briefly about 4 potential burrs. I think it is. The very first burr I did was my second out-of-state house, which was in Birmingham, Alabama. How I did that, I made a contact on Bigger Pockets, Rob Drum. He's in Birmingham. He's an investor and a real estate agent. I bought one house from him in Birmingham. I got a property manager then, who then told me I wanted to do another burr, or my first burr. He found a house for me that was $24,000 to buy it. He got for me a full estimate of rehab, and it needed some roof studs, whatever you call them up there. It needed some wall studs, roof joist maybe, floor joist, no basement, but it needed floor joist. It had a water leak in the past that ran down inside a wall, rotted studs out, rotted to floor joists out. It needed to be completely gutted not gutted, drywall wasn't torn out, some drywall was. Kitchen had to be redone. The hardwood floors had to be completely stripped and restained. Everything had to be painted. The bathroom had to be redone. Needed a new AC outside. I don't know if it was I can't remember if it was HVAC or not. But the whole estimate came up to $22,000. So it was $46,000 all in. I did not have $46,000 then to do this. So what I did was the missus had a 401k at her job, and you can take a 401k loan, not borrow it, but a loan. And at the time we did it, it could be a maximum of $50,000. So we withdrew enough to pay for the purchase first, then I withdrew enough to pay for the rehab second, $46,000. I think I paid for like the closing costs. When you buy a house, you got closing costs. A little bit. I paid them out of my pocket, I think. But then after it was completed, we got a tenant in there, and I had to wait, I think, 6 months. Contacted the bank. They did an appraisal. The appraisal came in at $77,000. So I ran the numbers, and I came up with a figure of $51,500 to pull out. Because $51,000 by pulling it out, that, according to my math, would completely cover my $46,000 of buying it, and my closing cost of buying it, and my closing cost to refinance it. It maybe didn't account for my holding cost, just holding it. But I called that my free house, because I got that money back, $51,500. By that time, my 401k loan, it was paid through the missus' paycheck. So it had been paid down from like $46,000 to I think $41,000 or so. So we paid that off completely. And then whatever cash we had left was just cash that we had left. Okay. So that was my first BRRRR. My second and subsequent BRRRRs were up in the Northwest. I just recently completed what I hope to be a BRRRR house in Chicago. It was successful. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I bought the house for $64,000, I think it was. But then I put $20,000 into it, something like that. I think it was like $80K all in, roughly. It wasn't quite 20 grand, but around $80K all in. And then I got it one for the refinance, and through the same bank, the same lender as Kiave. I have videos on my channel about Kiave. And so when I was ready, and they gave me, I did not pay cash for this house. They gave me what was called a bridge loan. I'm refreshing myself up here of how I did this. They gave me a bridge loan. I had to pay the down payment, 20% I think it was. It might have been 25%. Pay the down payment, and Kiave then paid the balance of buying the house. So the house is bought free and clear. While the house was being rehabbed, I then paid interest on that loan, but I paid interest on the loan of all the money they used to buy the house and all the money that they said I needed for the rehab, and they came up with a figure of $28,000. So altogether, it was like $77,000 or $78,000 I had to pay interest on, which was like 9.95% interest. Okay, so I did that for 5 or 6 months. It started out, it was $600 and some a month in interest. And then once we completed the rehab, we came in under that $28,000. So then they backed it down to, I think, $575, $585 a month in interest until we got it refinanced. And when it appraised at $130,000, which was a good appraisal. I got a mortgage for something like $96,000. And by getting that mortgage, then that gave me maybe 10 grand or so cash back. I think something like that, something to that effect. And believe it or not, I ran the numbers, but I don't have them in front of me. I did not, that is not a free house for me, but it's kind of close to being a free house. But I still, when it's all said and done, I think I still have, 20 grand into it, because Kiave has high closing costs. And I got to refresh myself on the numbers, but I think I got about 20 grand into it. Hey, Bill, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. All right. So then I did another house, and that first house in Chicago, I think I mentioned that. I did a second house in Chicago that recently has been finished. It's not completely finished. It's taken forever. I bought it in February. We're now in December, and it's still not completely finished. I'm selling that house back to the gentleman who found it for me and was hoping to rehab it. I'm selling it back to him. I'm going to basically break even on the house. And he's getting a loan to buy it, but that's in progress. So hopefully by the end of January, we're going to close on that. So because I did pay cash for that house. All right. And that house was like 70 grand. and then the rehab. And so I'll get all the money back. So I'm going to get that cash back. I also have a house in Northwest Indiana in Gary. I bought it back in March. I paid cash to buy it. I wasn't planning the BRRRR strategy initially when I bought it, but I bought it for $39,500, and it was off the MLS. And people still say there's nothing on the MLS. In March of this year, people were saying prices were going up. And when I found this house, I was like, man, I got to jump on this before everyone in my mastermind group finds it or before everyone else finds it, because the pictures looked really good. But it was $39,500 was the asking price. My realtor, which is Jim, I'll tell Jim I gave him a shout out in this video. He sells in Chicago. He's licensed in Chicago and in Indiana. And he told me, he said, put an escalation clause in it because there's already another offer in. And I said, how much do you recommend? He said, how about $500, but let's make it a step increase. And it'll basically be, if I'm saying this right, it would be an escalation clause saying I would pay $500 over the highest offer. That's not my offer. If there's a higher offer, I'll pay $500 more. And he said, let's put a cap on it so it doesn't like keep going up and you get paid too much. And I was like, okay, how about $45,000? And he said, okay, sounds good. So he called me up after a week or so, and he told me, he said, guess what? I can show you proof of this so you don't think I'm lying, but there's an offer in right now for exactly $45,000. So the seller, the agent said, if you will go exceed your 45 grand and go 45,005, you get the house. So I accepted it, and I got the house for 45,500. No other offer had an escalation clause in there, so I got that house. When it got appraised, because I dilly-dallied for a while, because I wasn't really planning to do the BRRRR with this one, but then I decided to do it, went through the loan process. Kiawe, I no longer recommend Kiawe. I got videos on my site. Personally, I don't recommend Kiawe any longer, but I had problems with Kiawe, again, with this house. And the appraisal came in low, because they had raised the limit that it had to appraise for, so it came in low. And I'm just holding on to this house now. We have a Section 8 tenant lined up. Section 8 up there did a complete staff turnover on November 1st, so they are behind on everything. So hopefully in the next couple weeks, they will say, we're requesting, check this out, $45,500 to buy this house, roughly 20 grand to rehab, so 65,000 all in. Throw in some closing costs, throw in some wasted money with Kiawe, and let's say I'm at 70 grand. I don't know exactly. And the rent that they're trying to get is $1,300. It's a 3-bed, 1.5 bath house. Okay, it's a nice house. It's cute. They did a great rehab. So it'll be they're trying to get $1,300. Hopefully, HUD is known sometimes to back it down. Hopefully, I'll get at least $1,250. If it goes lower than that, I pay cash for it. So I'm going to positive cash flow well. My cash return at $1,300. I don't have it in front of me, but it's good. It's decent. Okay. But anyway, that's my 4 BRRRRs. 1 successful free house. 1 in Chicago it's an okay cash flow. I think it's like 13-14% year on annual cash flow. But the positive cash flow is over $300. I forget exactly what it is. Then the other one in Chicago, I'm selling back to the guy. Fortunately, I got somebody that's going to buy it from me. This guy who found it for me. And the one in Gary, I'm just going to hold on to because it'll cash flow well. And I like to get all my cash back, but I don't have to get it all back. As long as I get that one house back, I'm okay. All right, so let me get back to the questions in. If you got any other follow-up questions on BRRRR, just let me know. One last thing with BRRRR, unless you're an experienced investor, don't do it. All right, that's my straight up response. Unless you're experienced, don't do it. And if you do it right now, interest rates have been rising. They may keep rising. It makes it risky. Your appraisals may come in low. And if you have to borrow money to do a BRRRR, I recommend against that. All right. If someone watching this maybe or listening, maybe he's not listening at the moment, who's done that, I recommend against that because you borrow money, you got to pay it back. And if we get rising interest rates and say appraisals come in low, you still got to pay that money back. So you got to be careful. In my case, I bought 2 houses Well, one I did, the first one I did, I did the borough okay. The second two I bought paid cash for both the Chicago and the Gary house, paid cash for those houses. One worked out, one is not working out. One I'm selling, one didn't work out. So it's my cash. Okay. So I don't have to pay anybody back. So that's the good part. All right. So All Night Hider said, if planning on a full rehab, consider a full gut out to be a good thing as the demo is already done. Hopefully the haul away too. I agree, All Nighter. There are houses up in Gary that need to be fully gutted. I have not bought one like that. I've seen some advertised that have been gutted and had drywall put back in, and maybe the investor maybe ran out of money or somebody ran out of money. And maybe you still get them at 25, 30K. And sure, you got to go and you finish it up, and you got to have good boots on the ground. If you're not there, you got to have good boots on the ground, because anytime you're buying a house, you need an inspection and you need people you trust to go in there and do a walkthrough and really look at it. Because even if they have new drywall in there, what's the wiring like underneath the drywall? What's the floor joist like? What are the wall studs like? You got to have good boots on the ground. I can't stress the importance of that. If you're going to any new area to invest in, even if it's your own market, unless you're a contractor yourself, you got to have good boots on the ground. Okay. All right. How you doing there, Bill? Glad you're here. Dividend Dave, any new deals on the horizon? That was a question that you asked me, I guess. Personally, no. Not in real estate. I have kind of taken a backseat at the moment with my real estate. I am planning to move here sometime soon. If you did a walk around of my house here, you would see a difference. There are some things in boxes. There's less behind me now. There's stacks back there. They were taller. There's less, and there's a few less. The books are still about the same up there. Okay, but I am planning to move, not just across town, not just cross country, but out of the country. So when you're moving outside the country, it's another challenge. I'm not shipping anything hardly with me. We're not taking anything with us. We're not saying this is a permanent move. All right. We are planning to rent when we get to the country. We're going to the country of Panama. You've probably seen you might have seen the videos I put up. So I plan to move to the country of Panama. Even though I've been there multiple times, I've lived there before, we're not sure we want to live there permanently. We might want to, we might do it, but we might not. So we're planning to rent when we get there, because it's cheap to rent. It's easier to rent. To buy, in that country, to buy is easy, as long as you got cash. Mortgages are not easy to get. They don't normally give mortgages there. You can get them, but they're not easy to get. You can do seller financing there, but mortgages are tough to do. So if you got cash, you can use cash to buy houses. But you can rent, but if you go to sell it, it might linger on the market for a year, or the price might be lower than what you paid for it. So unless you know you want to stay a long time, it's better to rent. So we're going to rent hopefully for at least 2 years. Because my terminology, I might have said it in another video, I might have put it out to my mastermind group. My plan is to, in quotes, explode my wealth. Okay, and I'm talking about financial wealth. And some real numbers here. On this house here with my mortgage is going to be going up. My escrow is going up. My taxes and my insurance are going up. And by going up, it might be going up somewhere between $300 to $500 a month. Okay, I already pay over $3,000 a month on this mortgage. So now we're going to be over 35, potentially up to 3,500, let's say. If you factor in all my utilities and my pool maintenance and pool care and et cetera, I'm over $4,000 a month I'm paying just to live here. I think, from what I know, I can rent a decent house in Panama, at least 2-bedroom, probably 3-bedroom, at least 2-bathroom, probably 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, fully furnished, including everything, pots, pans, like an Airbnb, furnished like that, with a pool, for probably, in the town I'm looking at living in, around $1,500. Some other parts of the country might be able to get the same thing for $1,000. Okay, where I'm thinking about going, I may change my mind, because we're going to do another trip there here not too long from now, and I'm going to better explore 2 different spots and really decide which one I want to go to. So, but if I can rent that cheap, and that could potentially include all utilities or some of the utilities, $4,000 here, let's say 1,500 there, I can explode my wealth, potentially. All right. So deals on the horizon for me, I have been buying this year, especially more mineral rights acreage. Excuse me. I've said on my channel that personally I feel energy is a better investment right now, meaning oil and natural gas, than both stocks and real estate. All right. Real estate, the deals have been harder to get because prices have gone up. All right. There's also, some people say we got a pending recession. I say there's a storm on the horizon. How bad that storm will get, I don't know, but we're going to have a storm coming. All right. If the storm gets bad, some tenants that we may have may struggle with their job and may lose a job, and our rents may suffer just a bit. All right. Yes, we can get them out. But if we have a government that says no evictions again, maybe we can't get them out. But with that being said, I don't think foreclosures are going to come, but some people may lose their house, but they'll sell them. They'll try to sell them to get the money because prices have appreciated. So I don't know. I'm not looking up. I look at real estate, but I'm not like seriously looking at it. Number one, I don't have the money for the down payment just yet. I'm not toying around with seller financing at the moment either. I have been buying mineral rights acreage throughout the course of this year, and I just bought my last portfolio a couple weeks ago, I guess it was. All right, and I look at each portfolio to be like a rental house. Okay, I just came up with my returns. I think I got it right here. Earlier tonight, I posted them all in my mastermind group. If you're curious, I'll tell you some. A lot of you here might be from my mastermind group. But my annual return with my mineral rights, a lot of them started paying just this year. The first one started in April, some in May, some in June, some in July, some in August, some for the first time in November and December. So these are annualized returns for my various portfolios, and tell me what you think. Here, real quick, a little lesson on mineral rights. When you buy mineral rights acreage, you have to be accredited. That's a question by Dividend Dave. You have to be accredited. To be accredited, remember I'm not a financial advisor at all, but to be accredited, you have to have a net worth of $1 million, not counting your primary residence. Okay, so that could be anything you own, the value of your real estate, the value of your savings account, your bank account, your gold, your silver, your whatever you have, whatever stocks, bonds, mutual funds. You got to have $1 million net worth, and then you're considered accredited. There is rumors they may try to raise that, but they're not loud rumors. But I have heard rumors about raising it to 10 million because it's been at 1 million for quite a while. If it gets raised to 10 million, I don't have a net worth of $10 million, so I don't know what that would do to me. Okay, hopefully it doesn't happen anytime soon. So then hopefully they'll go up to like 2 million because then I am a 2 millionaire there. All right. So anyway, with mineral rights, when they start paying, once you buy them, they take approximately 180 days to get your first payment. All right. Your first payment is almost always a little bit larger because it includes the past couple of months. But a lot of times with these mineral rights, in the beginning, the returns are lower because they need to start drilling more wells, but there's more wells on the horizon. When they drill a well, it can be both oil and natural gas. It could be both or one or the other. Almost always there's a little bit of both. Even if it's stronger with gas, there's a little oil. If it's stronger with oil, there's still some gas in there. Okay. But with all of them, they expect the returns to pick up over time because once they drill a new well, returns can really go up. Okay. But my annualized returns so far, not my annualized returns, my year-to-date returns, there's a difference. The one that I bought that started paying in April has a return from April to now, 16.05%. The next three started paying in May. Those next three are 23.44%, 6.84%, and 30.19%. The next one started paying in June. That's at 7.20%. The next two started paying in July. That first one's at 16.31% from July till now. That's not bad for half a year. And the next one's at 3.3%. Again, half a year. For a whole year, it'd be 6.5%. Not good, but not bad. But all of these returns should pick up. All right. The next three started paying in November. All right, so only 2 months worth of pay. So the first one's at 1.58%, the next one's at 3.62%, the next one's at 2.9%, 96%. Okay. I also have 4 in my self-directed IRAs, but I'm not going to cover all of them. Okay. Why'd that stop? All right. I also have an oil drilling investment. The oil drilling investment, there's lots of oil drills deals out there. A lot of them you got to be careful with. They're scammers. Okay. Or when you invest in an oil drilling adventure, whatever amount you invest, if it's a legitimate operation, you get to write off 100% of your investment on your tax return. You put in $50,000, you write off close to $50,000. You will write the full amount off over 5 years. But usually in that first year, you might write off like 80, 81, 82%, something like that. Every operation can be different, okay? But over 5 years, I think you'll write off all 100%. All right. But then the scammers, when they do it, that might be all you get. You get that write-off, which is good. A write-off's good. The company I'm with, I got the write-off the first year. I got a write-off the second year. And I've been getting monthly returns for about 18 months now. To date, I've made about 16%. What they're telling me is that between Q2, Q3 of this year, so that's what, July through October, I guess, something like that, or maybe April through October, somewhere in there, probably more like July through October, I should get all of my money back. The amount I invested, subtract out what I've already gotten from monthly returns, that remainder, I should get it all back. So say by late 2023, whatever money I put in, I got it all back. Okay, that's cool. I got all my money back, which means I got that cash again. But then they're expecting they're still going to be drilling wells, and what they do is they drill, they frack, they pump, they sell. After a while, they sell it. And when they sell it, that's when they get a big chunk of money and they'll return it to us investors. So they got something like 250 some wells. And as the years go on, 2023 into 2024, they will drill more wells on other parcels of land and get them going, and then they will sell them. So they say our return should go for hopefully the next 2 to 3 years. And they're expecting by the time it's all said and done, the complete return, around a 4x return. We'll see. And that's not counting the tax write-off. Okay? So it's not too bad. All right. So let's see. All right. Dividend Dave asks, how do you know what oil mineral rights investments to invest in? All right. With the mineral rights, I just spoke a little bit on the oil drilling there. I just know the company I invest with. Okay. I don't know of I've heard of other companies, but I've never looked into them. Okay. The company I invest with is King Operating Corporation. All right. J.R. Young. I got his book somewhere up there. J.R. Young, he's written a book on it, and he's the CEO of the company. Okay. They got a YouTube channel. You can look up J.R. Young. You look up King Operating Corporation. They're on YouTube. My mineral rights acreage, there's different companies that are involved in this. I use Eckerd Land and Acquisitions. Okay. I first saw Troy, the CEO, Troy Eckerd, on a webinar with Quest. Quest is my custodian for my self-directed IRA. One of my self-directed IRAs is Quest. The other is Camo Plan. So I first saw him on the QuestCon, and he said his cell phone number. So I called him up. I told him I was interested. He told me he would put me in touch with Amanda and have Amanda call me. Amanda called me. And when Amanda called me, she's the one that told me I had to be accredited. And I was like, oh, I'm like at 900-some-thousand. I'm not quite at that $1 million mark yet. And I was living in Virginia at the time. But then in about a month, I forget what happened. This would have been in 2020. Something happened, and I got accredited. I can't remember. Something happened. I got accredited. My net worth went up to over $1 million. So I got accredited. So I contacted Amanda. She no longer works with the company, but I dealt with her for a long time. And I would email Troy. And Troy, on my very first buy in December, they told me about 3 different portfolios that they still had acreage in. Explained all 3. 2 of them were like they expected higher returns out of the bat, like right away, like kind of soon. and then they would taper down. And one of them, they said, would start off slow, and over the first year or two, it would build slightly, and then over years 3, 4, and 5, it should keep going up into double-digit returns. And I was like, well, I kind of like that, slow and steady. It's in my self-directed IRA. I'm not living off the cash. I made an investment in that. It's like 3.71 and 7 acres. But the price to buy it was $6,750, which was very cheap for them. A lot of their acres now are like $12, $13, $14, $15,000. Because this one didn't have that immediate return. It's the delayed return, delayed gratification. Okay. Since then, I've learned a lot more about Eckerd. I've met Troy. I got a video up from, I call it Troy's Party. It was this annual conference I went to. I met Troy. I met Amanda. I met a variety. I met Trevor. Trevor's Troy's son. And I met most of the staff for Eckerd there, and other investors. I met investors that had invested with Eckerd for 20 plus years. They were investing with Troy when he was drilling wells himself. And I talked to a lot of people like that, and they all trust him. They said even when he's drilled a dry hole, they trusted him. Because sometimes in drilling, especially in the old days, wildcatters, they drill a hole and it'd be dry. They'd miss it. So you got to be, oil drilling can be risky. It's not near as risky now as it used to be. Now they do 3D seismic graphing or whatever it's called, taking pictures underground, computerized, looking underground. They know more or less what's down there. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes they may drill and a bit may break, and that's like big bucks. A drill rig to drill a well nowadays is like completely to drill 2 miles down, 2 miles over. You're looking at between $8 to $10 million. All right. So if it's not successful, who paid the $8 to $10 million? That's a lot of money. Okay. So what I like with King, and then I'll jump back over to Troy. With King Operating, they bought vintage wells, like 200 and some vintage wells, old wells that had not been maintained, they weren't doing well, but old wells can be rehabbed, kind of like you rehab a house, you rehab a car motor. They can be rehabbed and get going again. You're not going to re-drill it. You clean them up, you do maintenance to them, and clean everything and get them going again. So that with King, gave me monthly income. Then they drilled 2 wells, and when they first drilled it, my returns shot up. First with 1 well, then months 2 later was the second well. The second well, for whatever reason, petered out real quick. It's still producing, but oil wells, when they shoot up, it's like an old movie, they shoot up and they coming down, they got a decline curve and they stabilize. And then they ride it out over the next 25 to 50 years. Okay, so if you own it, you may get income for 25 or 50 years. But here's a secret that you don't hear talked about a lot. If you own this the whole time, 50 years, let's say, eventually it runs out. Let's say if you own just that well and it runs out and it's dry, that well has to be capped, because it can't be polluted, it has to be capped. Somebody has to pay for that capping. If you own the well at that time, you're liable. That's your bill you got. And if you got a bunch of investors, then everybody pays for it. But say all the investors pull out before it gets to the end, because other more investors who know better might pull out first. And so be aware of that, okay? With King plans to sell everything, okay? With Eckerd, Troy keeps a position, he says, in every single portfolio he recommends. They were recommending 2 portfolios a month, roughly every 2 weeks. Sometimes they might get 3 a month, okay? He's been doing mineral rights acreage. He's been drilling for 30 some years. He's had this company with mineral rights acreage for about 4 years. But he publishes all of his returns back from the very first one up till now. I just told you some of my returns. You can take for that what you will. Maybe you think they're good returns. Maybe you think they're not good enough, but that's what I got so far. I do fully expect with all of my mineral rights and with King, returns will increase over what they currently are. As I told my mastermind group, I have not yet. I always run numbers on rental properties. I always get my positive cash flow on rental properties. something I've never done is I've never gone after the fact and said, all right, how much did I spend on repairs? Because I spent a lot of money on repairs on pretty much every single house that I have. For my very first rental house I bought in the Shenandoah Valley for $97,000. I've put a new roof on it. I've put a new hot water heater in it. I put a new toilet in it. I've repaired some stuff. I painted the whole thing. I redid the walkway. I put in a iron heavy duty handicap rail down the walkway. Stained the steps and the front porch. And I was living there at the time I did that. So, and I didn't do it all myself, but I did some of it. I pressure washed the entire outside of the house, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So then, it's interesting. I looked at my tablet. My tablet's delayed over what I see on my phone. Okay, I'm looking at comments down there. So, but I've never calculated what exactly are my returns after spending all this money. All I will say is I'm living off my investments down here. I'm paying $4,000 a month. I've said different times on my channel, not recently, but I've said before, I've never per se have had a budget. I've always lived where if I'm making X number of dollars, I spend less than I make. I did it when I was in the Navy. I did it when I was in police work. 1998, when I was hired by the police department, my starting pay was $23,000 and a couple $100 a year. I had 2 young kids, a wife who wasn't working at the time, a 105-pound German Shepherd, a cat, and 2 parakeets, and I had just bought a house. That house I bought, the mortgage was one of my 2 paychecks a month. The house was old. It needed work. That first winter, I used a furnace to heat the house. I got a natural gas bill in of $400. This was in 1998. Ooh, it crushed me. It's like, I can't afford it. I was like, I didn't know what to do. I can't afford it. And I had 2 kids. I can't have a cold house. So I don't know how I did it. I don't know if I researched on the internet or what, but I bought one oil-filled radiator-style heater that you plug in, electric heater that's filled with oil inside this, like a little radiator. Got one, and we liked it. It helped. And we finished the winter out with that one. The second year, I got a second one. And the third winter, I got a third one. And we used all 3 so we could evenly heat the house. And it's like, who does that? Working a middle-class job, middle-class America, who has to heat their house with electric oil-filled heaters? I did, okay? I did it for 10 years. 10 years. All right, the house needed new windows. The house was built in 1955. This was in 1998 I bought it. It needed new windows. It needed a furnace. It never had air conditioning. When I got some money after about 10 years, I wanted windows first, I think it was, or maybe the furnace first. But when I got a furnace, new ducts had to be installed because the original ducts were like yay big, and you need bigger ducts for modern air conditioning. Okay, so I had to replace all the ducts, the furnace, and the AC. I got a person to do it. It cost me like $6,000, maybe $7,000. Nah, $7,000, $8,000. So it was a chunk of money. I had won an award in the police department. It was a cash award for my promotion of literacy. Think about it. If you ever get crushed and you get knocked down and you think you can't get up, check out what happened to me. Now, a lot of people know this. I've never said it on my channel. I won an award that was normally given to teachers. I got it, and it was a cash award. At that time, it was like $8,000 or $9,000. It was like 2 days before I was supposed to get it. 2 days before. My chief called me in his office and said the Commonwealth attorney had looked at it, looked at the law, and said that if I accepted that award, if I accepted it, I'd be in violation of the law, and I could be criminally charged, which means I would lose my job. And I was like, what? What? What do you mean? I said, what if I do go accept it? He's like, if you accept it, I'm probably going to have to fire you because it's a criminal charge. And I was like, it crushed me. It's like, I needed this money. I was making plans to fix my house. So the foundation that was given the award, they got their lawyers involved. And by the time the next year came around, they had changed the law. It was the law, Commonwealth of Virginia, got changed where law enforcement officers could receive, I forget how they worded it. It's on the books. You can go look it up and you can say, Mazske got that law changed. It got changed where you can accept a cash award. not a reward, an award. So the following year, I got last year's dollar amount, but the people who won it the next year, primarily teachers, all got about $1,000 more because it was a year had passed. So anyway, that was good to get though, because that paid for either the windows or the furnace or something. Okay. But old houses, it was a mistake in hindsight. I've said this before. And the missus and I were sitting down at that dock earlier tonight talking about it. If we could turn back the hands of time, which we can't, we would do one thing. We could go back to 1997. We would do one thing. Instead of spending our Sundays looking at houses, we would have spent our Sundays looking at duplexes, triplexes, or any quadplexes, and would have tried to have bought a duplex, triplex, or quadplex, and we would have house hacked. And even if we didn't know what we were doing and just had an okay deal, by having a tenant next to us paying half the mortgage, say the rent paid half the mortgage, I could have breathed. It would have made things a little bit better. All right, and we wouldn't have to stay there forever, because when I was younger, and when I bought my house, I was in my early 30s when I bought that house. And I think then it was like, I'm buying a house, I'm there for life. No. Just because you buy a house, you don't have to be there for life. I bought this house just under 2 years ago. I'm planning to sell it. And I've had family members here, I've had friends here, and they all say, wow, it's like, wow, you got a nice house. You got a swimming pool, you got a dock and a tiki hut, and it's nice. I'm selling it. Why am I going to sell it? A couple reasons, and one of them is financially. I should be able to make several $100,000. And I'm taking all the emotion out of it. I'm looking at the numbers. If I can make, let's just say it's 200,000. Let's say it's 100,000. If I can make $100,000 after 2 years, after putting a down payment down and doing some repairs, $100,000 would be a good deal. But if I can make at least $150,000, okay, not bad. But if I could potentially make $300,000 or $350,000 or $400,000, I'd be a fool not to sell. There's cheaper places to live. All right. Sometimes you got to take the money and run. As much as I might love certain aspects of living here, it's not perfect. No place is perfect. All right. So don't live in a house and think you got to stay there forever. I don't care who you are. Do not think you got to stay in your house forever. You can always move. You can be 40 years old. I'm 55 right now. I was considering, before I came up with the idea of moving to Panama, I was considering selling this and buying a duplex somewhere, because I had never house hacked. And maybe I would try house hacking. But then the more I thought about it, it's like, really? After all those years of living in the Shenandoah Valley in my own house with a big yard, an acre and a third, coming here to a bigger house, a nice house with a pool and a dock and a tiki hut, and then to sell it to go into a duplex, it's like I'm taking a step backwards. I could do it. I could do it to improve my financial future. But if you're younger than me and you live in that nice house now, look at buying a duplex, triplex, or quadplex. Why do I say a 2, 3, or 4 unit one? Because you can get a residential loan with it. So you get the same rates. I know rates are up, but you get a residential loan. You get the same rates like you're buying a single family home. Okay. And then you have tenants that will pay your mortgage for you. And anytime tenants can pay your mortgage, that means you can live for free or close to free. Millennial Mike is still around. I think he said he's working an accident. Then, oh, hey, Michelle. Thanks for coming in. Let's see what else I missed. There's something else there. Yeah, thanks for coming in, Michelle. So if you can get your tenants to pay some or all of your mortgage for you, you're basically living for free. That's a game changer. It's a game changer for almost anyone, especially now in 2022, almost 2023. There are so many people out there I'm hearing that are saying they can't afford to buy a house. Young people, because the housing prices have gone up. Are they looking at duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes? Some might be, but most aren't. But if they can do it, it's a game changer. Two expensive things. It's different having the phone straight up and down versus sideways. It's not as wide. Your house is the biggest expense. Number 2 is your car. If you can reduce your housing expenses and reduce your vehicle expenses, game changers. You're on your way to becoming financially wealthy. If you don't change your house and you got an expensive mortgage and you don't change your vehicle and you got an expensive car payment, you're treading water, more than likely. Unless you got a high paying job and you can afford it. If you got a high paying job, more power to you. I never had a high paying job. I topped out. I do plan to make a video. I'm running out of time, aren't I? I gotta pull up the Social Security website. I'm gonna make a video here soon, mailed it tomorrow, on my annual income going back to about 1982 or 83. I forget what year I started a taxable income job, one of those 2 years. And I'm gonna run through my income from then until modern times. And it's be from the Social Security website, my taxable income. I'm not lying to you about it. I topped out. My top income was in the latter part of my career in the police department. I topped out making base pay $52,000 a year. I worked overtime. My total salary might have been $56,000 a year, but that was like my maximum salary. This tea's pretty good. All right. So we're getting that close to an hour here. We're at 56 minutes. I appreciate all of you coming. Let me see what else I got here. My voice is getting a little hoarse. It's my second video today. All right. Michelle says, I started late, so we'll hear the answer when I get there. You said you have land. Do you have any cash coming out in from that, or just a liability? It would seem land will be to leave to heirs, or question mark. You must have misheard me. I never mentioned that I bought land. Now I will back it up with saying something different. I did buy land when I was about 20 years old. I joined the Navy when I was 19. I might have been 19 when I did it. I was in the Navy. I was either 19 or 20 when I bought it. I bought 5.5 acres in Southwest Virginia, Wythe County, outside of Wytheville. You can look up on a map, Wytheville, Virginia. I'm not from there. It was in Wythe County. It was near Speedwell. Down that way, it was a private drive, and the lots going back a private drive were like 5 to 6 acre lots. I had 5.5 acres. It was wooded. My land was kind of on a hill, not too steep, but a hill. It was a very pretty spot. I held it. That would have been in the late 80s, probably 1988. Could have been 87, 1988. I sold it after I was living in the Shenandoah Valley, after I had bought that house that I was living in, where money was so tight. Somewhere after that, probably around the year 2000, 2001, 2002, somewhere in there, I sold the land. I bought it for $5,000 and I sold it for $12,000. I paid annual taxes on it. Okay. My plans when I bought it, remember I was 19 or 20 years old. I was thinking, well, if I ever get out of the Navy, maybe I'll build a house there. You know, it's 5.5 acres. And years, like around when I sold it, I found that neighborhood, there were some nice houses down there, but the road was in really bad shape. It was a private drive. I guess no one was paying to fix it up. Some houses were in disrepair. It's an economically, the southern part of Virginia in the mountains is poor. And it's a poor area. People don't always take care of their houses. All right. When I did get out of the Navy, I also bought a house back in 1993 in Southwest Virginia, a little town called Sugar Grove, Virginia, not West Virginia, Virginia. Across the mountain, Route 26 from the town of Marion. Marion's about 5,000 people. Sugar Grove is no traffic lights. It's a car wash and a diner. And I bought a house on 1 acre of land with a creek in the front yard, a little front porch. That's when I put a roof on. I put a roof on it, put a little wood deck on the back. It backed up to a national forest. So national forest up there, national forest. I was right at the foothill of a mountain. All right, pretty, very pretty. Stayed there. I bought it in 93, sold it in 97. I think I got out of the Navy in 96, moved there, and I realized why property was. I was young and dumb when I bought it. I was thinking houses are so cheap. I bought the house for $30,000, and I was thinking houses are so cheap. You know, I can buy it and it's cheap. I'll get a job. My mortgage was like $226 a month, cheap. Got a mortgage through Navy Federal, put 20% down. Something like that. When I rented a house, I was up in Maine after I bought it and stationed up in Maine, and someone called me and said their father had built a house and he wanted to buy it from me. He offered me 40 grand for it, and I turned him down. I said I wanted to move there when I got out of the Navy. So he offered to rent it from me, and he offered to rent it for $200. And I said, how much you want to rent it for? He said $250. I said, okay. So he said, what's your address? I'll mail you a check every month. Okay, I gave it to him. And every month, like clockwork, I get a check in the mail for $250. Never had a lease. I never increased the rent. I just got a check every month. A couple months before I was getting out of the Navy, I called them up and said, I'm going to be getting out of the Navy and I'm going to be moving down there. And they didn't like it. They wanted to stay, but they moved out. So when I did get there, I moved into the house. I found out after I put the roof on the house, I started looking for a job. I took 90 days of terminal leave from the Navy. And when I started looking for a job, I realized, oh, my degree in business, it's not helping me. And I couldn't find a good job. I started looking in Roanoke, Virginia, which is farther north. And I sent in different resumes, and I had, I think Wendy's called me up one day in Roanoke. I drove up there to interview, and they were going to hire me they were willing to hire me as a manager of the store. And the starting pay would have been decent. I forget what it was, but for that year, it would have been decent. And they had me test out working a little bit. So I did the soda machine at a drive-through window. And I was like, this is weird. I've never in my life worked in a fast food restaurant. So I did it for an hour or so, and that was it. And I turned the job down. So I ended up working at a drug and alcohol rehab center in Marion, working third shift, basically babysitting the people that were there, checking blood pressure and giving out medication before they went to bed. So I learned how to take blood pressure. And then I took a job with a company that was based out of Mount Airy, North Carolina, and they hired me in a management training program. And I knew that I'd have to relocate with that job. And they sent me, businesses in 6 different states, and they sent me around to 3 or 4 different states training. I spent a week here, a week there, a week there. I'd come home one Saturday afternoon. I'd leave Sunday night or Monday morning to drive to the next place. So I had 2 little boys. They probably don't really remember it because I was gone all week. I get home late Saturday, and sometimes I leave Sunday evening or 4 o'clock Monday morning to drive to wherever I was going to. And I was down in Raleigh, North Carolina, when I got a phone call from the Vice President, David O'Neill. David called me. He knew me. I had driven him at one point from Raleigh to Norfolk, Virginia, and I spent a couple of days with him, so he got to know me. And he knew about my mom being sick, and she was up in Maryland. She was dying. And so he said, I can get you closer to home. How about if I give you a store up in the Shenandoah Valley? So it's closer to home. I said, sure. And so I ended up moving there, and he said, I'm going to help you out. I know you're married. You got 2 kids. We will loan you a box truck so you can haul your stuff. And we will pay for you to stay at a Shoney's hotel for a week. We'll pay it, and something else he was going to kick in. And then he said, for a week, you can, we'll pay for a week so you can find a rental house. And the missus was like 7 or 8 months pregnant at the time, 7 months pregnant, so she was quite big. So the finding a rental house was me to drive around and find it. But then he said the final kicker, but you're going to be working a store for that week in Blacksburg, Virginia. And I was like, Blacksburg, Virginia? That's 100 miles away from where you're sending me to. He said, yeah, that manager's on vacation, so you got to cover that store. It's like, okay. So I got up, dark 30 for that week, drove 100 miles down and worked the store, closed the store at whatever time it closed, 5 p.m. or 6 p.m., drove 100 miles back home. I was looking through those real estate newspapers, trying to find a rental property. I would drive at nighttime, drive around, look. I looked at some apartment somewhere, looked at, but anyway, I drove down one road, saw a rental house in the dark, called him up the next morning, said, can I look at it the next evening? Went the next evening, had my one little boy with me, my pregnant wife. And the ad said, no pets allowed. But when I went to the house, they had a dog run in the basement with a door to go outside and a fenced in area outside for like a dog. So we looked at the house, and it was completely full of stuff, like from head floor to ceiling, full. And it was a Thursday, and we said we wanted it. And the 2 ladies said, when do you want to move in? I said, Saturday. And they kind of looked at each other, and I said, we're desperate. We need a place to live. And, I got the missus is pregnant. We need a place to live. We're desperate. And I said, if you just move the stuff halfway back So our stuff will fit in here, we'll survive. And they're like, we'll get it out. We'll get it out. One of the girls worked at a landscape company, and they had a lot of Hispanics work for them and immigrants. And she paid the immigrants to come clean the house out. And by the time we got there on Saturday afternoon, it was cleaned out. And those same guys emptied my truck out and put everything in my house for me. So that was kind of cool. So then life goes on, but that's when we looked for a single family home when we should have been looking for a multi-family. Okay. So let's see what we got here again. I'm scrolling back down the comments here. Dividend Dave said, house hacking made my car payment higher than my mortgage. Great job there, Dividend Dave. I'm glad you found a duplex to live in. That's really cool. All right. Millennial Mike said, clear my crash. CDL driver, not at fault as usual. Great, Mike. I'm glad you cleared. All Nighter said, when I buy land, it will be an investment in my hunting career more than a financial investment. My portfolio will have to be able to support such a purchase. And remember, I'm reading comments because once I upload this video, when it's all said and done, these comments will disappear. All right, I agree with that. It is an investment because you would be hunting on it, and you enjoy hunting, as you've told me. So as land gets more tighter, say in the future, maybe you don't, you can't just hunt wherever you want to. So if you got your own land, you can always hunt. Shout out to Dion. Is Dion there? I don't know. I can't tell who's here. So, yep, Dion Talk. Different channels that are good to watch, besides mine, are Dion Talks, something like that. He has a channel. He became financially independent in 10 years. Lumberjack Landlord. He has something like, I don't know, 200 rental units. Millennial Mike, who's been watching, he says I'm his mentor. I've helped him get started in Northwest Indiana. He's not yet financially independent, but he's progressing towards it. One rental at a time, Michael Zuber. I've been on his channel twice so far. He took 20 years to become financially independent. I kind of sort of became financially independent in 4 years once I found real estate. I'll explain on that real quick. Dave asked if he planned to buy a Montana hider, and he answered if Montana is selling. All right. And All Nighter said, is that your market, Dave? No. Dividend Dave's in North Carolina, Winston-Salem specifically. He asked if he has any land in Montana. Dave says no, but he's thought about it. When I get financially free, we should talk. Montana. A lot of police officers I worked with said when they retire, they like to move to the middle of nowhere, perhaps Montana, because most cops do not want to stay where they're working at. The unfortunate thing is most police officers do not invest. And most police officers, if they retire and live off their pension, most police officers will work another job because they can't afford to live off their pension. As I found out, I'm retired and I got a pension. Last year, my pension got a cost of living raise of something like 3.7%. Inflation was running 10%. All right, if I was completely living off my pension, inflation would exceed it. And if I lived to be 90, my pension would just go down in value. Those dollars would buy less and less every single year. Okay. So what else do we got here? All Nighter said, I think Mazske has both our numbers. Maybe he will facilitate an exchange. And Dave says he'll post it in our mastermind. I just saw it pop up. He did post it in the mastermind. And All Nighter says, Roger that. Just say something there, right on, Dave, or something like that. So anyway, cool. All right, so if you got any more questions, ask. If I see another one pop up, I'll answer it. So what was the last thing I was going to talk about real quick? What was it? I said something I was going to talk about real quick. Can't remember. Let me think real quick. Something I got to clear my mind. So if you decide to sign out, that's fine. As long as one person's here, if I think of what it is, I will bring it up. So anyway, just to rehash things, I was a successful stock investor. From the year 2005 to the year 2018, I had an average annual return of about 18%. In 2019 and 2020, I averaged 100% a year. 1 year I was like 110%, the other year I was about 90%. I learned how to pick stocks. How did I do it? I subscribed to the Motley Fool. More specifically, I subscribed to Stock Advisor. It's a newsletter for the Motley Fool. And then in 2015, I was hired as a contractor, a very part-time contractor for the Motley Fool. and I had full access to everything, all their services, everything across the board. So I could read everything. And then, but then in January of 2017, I bought my first rental house. By the time I bought my second in December of 2017 and my triplex in May of 2018, and then maybe my first house down in Alabama, I realized that real estate is better than stocks. Even though I had a great return in stocks, when you only have a little bit of money, it'll grow. 18% is good. It'll grow. But I did pull money out in 2014 to revamp my basement. I sold Netflix stock to renovate my basement. Some people here might have slept in that basement before. So it was a nice basement. It was expensive, $27,000. It was expensive. I put about $1,000 in Netflix. I came out with pushing 20 grand. Not too bad. All right. But anyway, then I realized real estate gives you positive cash flow every month. Stocks do not, unless you buy dividend paying stocks, and then they pay sometimes quarterly dividend, semi-annual, or monthly dividend. That's the only way you really get positive cash flow from stocks, unless you sell them. All right. If you have $1 million in stocks, I read a Wall Street Journal article today on my phone. I no longer subscribe to Wall Street Journal, but I could read this article. And they profiled 4 or 5 different folks that had retired with approximately $1 million and told their stories. And for almost all of them, they didn't have enough. They all worked well-paying jobs. None of them saved as much or invested money like they should. None of them, I don't believe, invested any in real estate. All of them were now living on less money than they made in their working career. One was a pilot. One was high up in a bank, I think it was, or something. They had some good paying jobs, but they're all living on less when they retire. And it said on there, some of them were struggling a little bit. All right. My plan for many, many, many years has been when I retire to be hopefully living better than when I was working. As I got closer to retirement, I realized that wasn't going to happen. Then I found real estate, and I realized it can happen. And like I said, I did become financially free. You could say in 4 years, or you could say it took me 30 years, because I started investing in 1990 in mutual funds with $1,000. Okay. When 2017 came and I had my Roth IRAs, I had less than 6 figures in my Roth and Mrs. Roth, and had a small brokerage account with less than 6 figures. Okay. Those stocks did not buy any houses except for I bought 2 houses in self-directed IRAs. Okay, so I bought 25 houses in 4 years, so that knocked it down to 23 houses. You can knock out one other house. I bought my triplex May of 1998. I retired from police work in April 1st of 2018. Sorry. And when I retired, I had a 457 plan. Literally the very first day after I retired, I contacted the custodian and told them I wanted to sell everything. I wanted to cash it out. They withheld federal and state tax. I had about 65,000-ish in my 457 plan. After they held tax out, I got in about $45,000-ish. That $45,000-ish was the down payment for me to buy my triplex that cost me $199,500 in Virginia. I have since then completely renovated the inside, all 3 apartments, and the outside, the front parking lot, and the back parking lot of that building. I then did a cashback refinance and pulled a chunk of money out, and then I sold it just a year ago. At the very end of December of 2021, I sold it to one of my tenants. I forgot to tell him about this video. So I sold it to him, and he now owns it. He's house hacking. He lives in 1 unit, and he's renting the other 2 units to the same tenants that were there. I find good tenants. They stay a long time, and rents get raised every month. So it works out. All right. So I got some more stuff down here. Well, real quick here, then I did buy 25 houses in 4 years. I told you about 5 units. Triplex, stocks paid for that, or 457 plan paid for it. 2 houses in self-directed IRA, stocks paid for those. The other 20, I bought using a $30,000 HELOC to assist me with my down payments on the first house, the second house, and the next house after the triplex. I used assistance from that HELOC, never 100% of the down payment, but help from it for those 3 different houses. I then used the BRRRR strategy using a 401k loan and got to get one other house. I then sold the second house I bought in December 2017. I sold that in the spring, late spring of 2018. Sold one house and I bought four houses. The one house was cash flowing about $300. The four houses were each cash flowing roughly $250. Do the math. $1,000 beats 300. Four houses appreciating should be one house appreciating. Four tenants paying down mortgages versus one tenant paying down a mortgage. Okay, so I sold one to buy four. The following year, I might have bought something else that year. Then the following year, I bought something like 14 houses in 1 year. 9 of them were through seller financing. I found someone through my network that told me about a gentleman who was selling houses under market value, but they were in under market condition. They were in rough shape, and rents were under market value, and most of the tenants were sub-quality tenants. Okay, I bought 9 houses, bought them all cheap. They ranged from $30,000 up to about $50,000, maybe. The most expensive might have been in the 50s, I think. I put 20% down, 4.9% interest, 30-year amortization, but a 15-year balloon. Okay, so I got those 9. I got 4 others houses that year. I got 5 more. I got 14 altogether. And I became, basically at the end of December of 2021, I consider myself, December of 2020, I consider myself financially free. And I started looking for a house down here in Southwest Florida. And I got a mortgage on this house, which cost me $555,500 in just my name, because the missus was staying in Virginia because we had to finish rehabbing our personal house, which means just my income could qualify for this mortgage. And I have my police pension, at that time, $2,500 some dollars, and the rental properties that were in my name, not ones that were just 100% in her name. So it was tough to get qualified for this, but I got qualified because my banker, Jerry, he's on my channel under interviews with others, Jerry Padilla. He can get mortgages a lot of times. He can help you out. So he got me qualified, as he said, as when I saw the house up there, I could take that money and invest it. So when I sold the house, remember all those mineral rights that I talked about? A lot of them came from the money from selling the house in Virginia. Okay, how many people do that? How many people sell their personal house and invest the money? I did. All right, now I'm talking about selling this house, but when I sell this house, I'm not going to invest this money per se. I'm going to put it in the bank, and I'm probably going to put it into Wealthfront. Wealthfront, if you follow a link that I have in an earlier video, will pay you 4.3% interest. They're currently paying 3.8% interest, but they'll give a 0.5% boost, and it's good for 3 months, 90 days. But now if you refer someone after you sign up, you can get an extra 3 months on top of that, up to a maximum of 12 months of the boost, the 0.5% boost. Okay, if they raise their rates between now and the time whenever that rate boost expires, they will give you a 0.5% boost over the new rate, whatever that new rate is. If they raise it to 4%, now your rate goes to 4.5 or something like that. So you can do the math. If I put a couple $100,000 into this account and get 4.3% interest, or say it's 3.8% interest, I'm getting a fair amount of interest. In theory, I could probably pay my rent in Panama with that interest. But my plan is I'm paying this mortgage out of pocket. So my rent down there, I'll pay out of pocket. I plan to keep the money in the bank, and it may get moved around at some point. It may get invested at some point. It's hard to, cash burns a hole in my pocket. I like to invest it. But the longer I live there, the longer I pay rent without paying a house, where when you own a house, you got to do maintenance. You got to pay for the maintenance. That's why it's cheaper to rent than it is to buy and live in it. For all of you out there, there's only 8 of you watching, but I don't know how many of you will watch it after the fact. If you own your own house, it's more expensive, usually, not always, to own a house than it is to rent. Because when you own it, you're responsible for the new roof. You're responsible for the new furnace, new air conditioning, new windows, new doors, all of that stuff. You're responsible for it. When you rent, the landlord is responsible. But if you buy investment property, you are the landlord. So hold money out of your rent so you can pay for the repairs. Okay. All right. So let me see what else I got here. Yeah, Dave posted his number. Fabiola asked, what did I miss? Fabiola, this video will get uploaded to my YouTube channel once it's done. It'll take a while. It always takes a long time to upload. Probably I'll go to bed and I'll still be uploading. So you can watch. I'm not going to rehash everything I talked about. It's too much. I can't remember it. And then Tiffany asked, where in Alabama do you invest? Tiffany, thanks for coming. I don't recognize your name, so I think you might have posted a comment one other time, but I appreciate it. I have two houses. I bought two houses in Birmingham, Alabama. All right. The Burr house that I got for free that I talked about, if you saw that one, my free house, I sold that earlier this year. I bought it all in, what, $46,000. My mortgage was $51,500, and I sold it for 85, 86, 87, maybe 87,000. All right, so paid a realtor fee. So I made a little bit, not very much. It was time. I went all in with Gary in Northwest Indiana, Birmingham. I'm on my third property manager, and I'm still not satisfied with them. That means I'd have to, if I kept a house, I'd have 4 property managers. Rob Drum, who sold me the first house, his company, Big X Realty, I think it is. I use them. Todd, I'll tell Todd, I'll give him a shout out. Todd is the guy that listed the house and sold it. My second house, I have just almost completely finished rehabbing that house. I bought that house in August of 2018 for $45,000. And the tenant that moved in just moved out a couple months ago, and we had to fix the house up again, rehab it. I put $13,000 all in to get this house spiffed up. Bought it $45,000. I put a new roof on the house, split the cost of the roof with the guy that sold it to me. It's about $2,500. Put a new sewer line in the backyard, another $2,000, and did this rehab of $13,000. So we're at like 47, 59, 60. We're at 60 some with closing costs, $65,000. He plans to list it, I believe, at $105,000. So we'll see. The market's slowing down. We'll probably list it in January sometime. We'll see. An investor may buy it because it's a cute little house. It can still rent, probably meet the 1% rule. Even at $100,000, it could probably meet the 1% rule. And or a homeowner might buy it because it's a cute little house, freshly renovated. Roof is only 4 or 5 years old, so it's good. But as I said earlier, you got to have the right boots on the ground. I never found the right boots in Birmingham. I'm not saying you can't invest in Birmingham. There's another guy. Oh, what's his name? He's a retired Army. He bought 20 houses in Montgomery, Alabama. Oh, his name will come to me. I've been in touch with him. 20 houses in Montgomery, Alabama. He paid cash for all 20. He started when he was stationed there in Montgomery. There's an Army base there. He's an Army officer. And then over his career, kept buying houses there and got up to 20, paid cash for all 20. He retired just in the last year or so. And then I'm not sure what he's up to now. I know he was planning to buy a small apartment building, small, maybe 5 or 6 unit or something. And I think he's taken his first mortgage ever out because he understands he should have. If you use leverage, you can grow even faster. So he really didn't understand that. While I was in the military, he's moving. He got stationed in South Korea quite a bit. So he kept buying houses. He had his boots on the ground in Montgomery, and he kept buying houses and paying cash for them. They were cheap, $25,000, $30,000, $40,000. And he bought 20 of them, paying cash for them. That's pretty good. All right. So anyway, I appreciate all of you that are still sticking it out. It's been an hour and 24 minutes. I did miss my walk tonight for you guys. Real quick here at the end, one last thing. I talked about this earlier about wealth. Invest in your personal health. All right. You may exercise a lot. You may lift weights. You may ride bikes. You may be a runner. But invest in the food you eat, because what goes inside you is probably more important than anything you can do to that part of your body, from lifting or your lungs in there, from biking or running. The food you put inside can be more of a benefit. Because look around you. The older I get, I see this. Look around you at people that are older. People start, when they're my age, when they're younger than me, people start dropping off. There was just a running back who was a running back for the Denver Broncos, died at the age of 31 from, I think it was kidney cancer. 31 years old. Trey Mancini, I've mentioned him several times on my channel, 28 years old, got diagnosed with colon cancer. Major League Baseball player on the Baltimore Orioles. Missed a year of baseball. He had to have surgery in his colon to fix it. 28 years old. Chadwick Boseman, famous actor, Black Panther. 42 years old or 43 years old, died of colon cancer. So when you hear me in other videos harp about get a colonoscopy, maybe as young as 45, by golly, do it. And while you're at it, get an endoscopy. Colonoscopy goes up from the bottom, endoscopy goes down from the top. You don't know what they're going to find in there, no matter who you are. You can be a bodybuilder. You can be a long distance runner. But what's inside you? What's inside you? It's important what you eat. All right? The older I get, the more I realize that. I'm going to harp on this a little bit. 3, 4, 5 servings of fruit a day, 3, 4, 5 servings of vegetables a day. I personally still eat meat. I eat steak, I eat chicken, I eat pork, I eat fish. I don't eat as much as I used to. I eat more fruits and vegetables than I used to. And I also have incorporated nuts and seeds and legumes, beans, into my diet. Nuts, I think I just had 5 different nuts in my house. I had peanuts, cashews, almonds, walnuts, and pecans, or pecans, however you want to say pecans. Seeds, I have 3 different seeds in my house: sunflower seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds. Every single seed and nut I mentioned have nutritional benefits to them that other stuff doesn't necessarily have. Be careful with nuts. They're high in fat, they're high in calories. But the benefit of them, whatever size palm you have, that's roughly how many nuts you eat a day. Eat a mixture. I got pistachio nuts too. Pistachio, I eat some of them. The seeds have a variety of health benefits. Flaxseed, I think, has omega-3 oils in it. They're cheap. Every supermarket sells them. Just look around. They're there. I found them in my local supermarket. They're kind of hidden away in a corner, but they're there. The benefits, you don't know how they will benefit you. If you eat a bowl of oatmeal, a bowl of cereal or something, sprinkle some chia seeds on them. Sprinkle some flax seeds on them. Eat some yogurt, sprinkle it on there. If you eat yogurt, get the plain yogurt, because look at labels at added sugar. Diabetes is rampant in this country. I'm not going off on a tangent here. This is at the end. Diabetes is rampant. There are kids who are teenagers who are getting diabetes. There are people in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, their 60s, pre-diabetic and diabetes. It's rampant. It's all around us. People are not getting tested, and they don't know it until it's too late, and they got it. Once you get diabetes, it is, I think, irreversible. But anybody, unless you're born with type 1, anybody can prevent diabetes through your diet. Most cancers can be prevented through your diet. Most heart attacks can be prevented through your diet. They think most dementia and Alzheimer's can be prevented through your diet. Primarily fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, and protein, your meats. I'm not saying you got to be a vegetarian. I think personally meat has amino acids and some other stuff that you can't always get from other food, and vitamins don't always do the job. So that old adage, you are what you eat, take it to heart. And if you start when you're younger, why wait till you're old and you start getting breathing problems or heart problems or a tumor or something? Why wait till you get it? Start when you're younger and live healthy for decades and decades and decades to come. In the meanwhile, take care of your teeth. Clean your teeth properly. Get a water pick. Don't go to bed with stuff stuck in between your teeth that will rot. It'll rot your teeth out. Look around at old people. How many old people have some kind of false teeth? A lot. How many old people use canes or something? A lot. How many older people get sort of house locked in their house? because their health is so bad. That Wall Street Journal thing I just read, one couple in there, husband and wife, both have health problems. The guy, if I remember right, is the one who was a retired military pilot, and then he was a commercial pilot. They're both in their 60s, and they both have bad health problems where they don't go out and about very much. They're in their house, but they're still financially, I think they're doing okay. But I'm just guessing, they didn't take care of themselves. Probably a lot of military people drink too much. Not saying they did, but a lot do. A lot don't eat healthy. They deploy. It's harder to eat healthy when you deploy. My sons are both deploy on the water in the Coast Guard. Your diet is controlled when you're on the water. My oldest son, I just talked to him the other day. He's off the coast of Alaska somewhere. He has mud water with him on the boat. He makes a cup of mud water every day. He no longer drinks coffee. And that's his personal choice. Mud water, I've showed the bag. I got a new bag out there now. I'm not going to go get it and show it to you. It has chai tea in it, which you can look up the ingredients of chai tea. It has 4 different mushrooms in it. Remember I talked on, did I mention mushrooms? Yeah, I mentioned it at the beginning, didn't I? The health benefits of mushrooms. It has cacao in it, chocolate, the chocolate bean, cinnamon, turmeric. Turmeric is another spice that sprinkle it on your food. It's cheap to buy. You get a little thing of that or get a little bigger one. Sprinkle it on your dinner. It's a little kick to it, a little spice, but not much. It's a food that makes stuff yellow. All right. It has a lot of health benefits. If you incorporate a variety of less sugar, more fruits, more vegetables, more nuts, more seeds, more lean protein, lean chicken, lean beef, fish, wild caught salmon. Okay, it's the best kind of fish to eat, wild caught salmon. Whatever else I might have forgot, salads, leafy greens. Leafy greens are good. You incorporate all that into your diet. Then you incorporate, at the same time, you incorporate some exercise in. I swim almost every day. It got cold. My pool the other day was 59 degrees. That's too cold. I'm not getting in at 59 degrees. Today it got up to 62. We got a little warming trend going on. I like those trends. It's starting to warm again, so I'll be in it before too long. I walk almost every night. I wear a Fitbit. I can track my steps. I try to minimize stress. I try to get my sleep. I've been doing better because all my life I've never gotten enough sleep, so I'm trying to get more sleep. I try to go to bed 11-ish now because I wake up 6-ish. And if I go to bed at 1, I still might wake up at 6-ish. So if I go to bed at 11, I get some more sleep in there. So all those things are important, but it all comes back to what you put inside you is the most important thing. All right. So what do you think? Let me see. Anything else I got down here? Yep. Thank you, All Nighter Hider. I appreciate it. I agree. Fiber is very important. I eat more fiber now than I've eaten any time in my life. Oatmeal with raisins is good too. I've eaten a bowl of morning oatmeal for probably 20 years now. My oatmeal this morning, if you could see it, it's a big bowl. It's one of those, it's a big bowl. Is my oatmeal, blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, and blueberries. Cinnamon sprinkled on it. Cinnamon's good. Sunflower seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, and then I put some almond milk in it. So it fills it up. It takes me a while to eat it. I eat slow. I have slowed down my intake of food because one thing they did when I had my first endoscopy earlier this year, I know TMI, too much information. When I had my first endoscopy earlier this year, I was having trouble swallowing at times. And that's not good. It kind of concerned me. And one thing he said he did, I think they do this for a lot of people when they do them, they stretch out something down there where a little hole in your esophagus maybe closes up as you get older. And they stretch it back out to widen it up so food doesn't get clogged up in there because that's not good. That'll cause you to choke. All right, so that's not good. All Nighter said, I fish for wild Alaskan sockeye and eat them 30 out of the water, not to brag. Cool. I got to fly up there one day and go fishing with you. I used to fish a lot. When I grew up as a kid, I fished a lot. I hunted a lot when I grew up. Last time I really fished was when I was stationed up in Maine. I fished for trout in the rivers around there. And a couple times I went out and got leeches on me. That's not good. In the wilds of Maine. So anyway, 30 minutes. Eat them 30 minutes out of the water. Got you there all nighter. I appreciate the information. I may have to fly up there. I was just last night or the night before looking at cruises. Millennial Mike went on a cruise recently. I was looking at Chase. I called Chase up, talk about cruises with him. I got some prices on 3 different cruise lines. And they got celebrity cruises going on with the Chase credit card, Chase Sapphire card. If you got one of the 2 Sapphire, preferred or reserve, they got celebrity cruise ships. That's the luxury cruise liner. They're like 2 people, inside room, 2,300, 2,400 for 7 or 8 days. Water view room was like 2,600 for same time period. All meals included. And then they give you a $60 credit for anything you want. It could be food, it could be drinks, it could be activities. $60 every day, $60 credit. They bump you up to all alcoholic drinks for like $18 a day. That's included. So the $60 credit's thrown in, the alcohol drink package is thrown in, and something else was thrown in because you're using that Chase card. They throw these perks in. But he said if you don't mind kids, you go Carnival. Carnival will have the most children on it because it's family friendly. And if you're an older couple, me, and you don't mind kids, you can go on a boat like that. It's the cheapest one. I think he said 1,200 maybe, 1,000, 1,200, 1,300, 1,500, somewhere in there. Now it's 1,300 topped out, inside room. And then Carnival was middle of the road. I think it was Carnival. No, whatever the other one was, it's written down on my notebook out there. Was 1,500, and then that celebrity cruise was the high dollar one. But he said that some folks start out for the first time with Carnival, and then they want to go up to the luxury one. And he said people that go luxury almost never go back down because it's luxury. I'm telling you, if you don't use credit cards to get the points, do it. If you don't, the terminology might be churn. I don't churn. I get a credit card for 3 months, roughly. I get the sign-up bonus. I get a credit card in the Mrs. names for roughly 3 months, get the sign-up bonus. Then I might apply to get one in my name, then I get one in her name. So in a year's time, 12 months, roughly, 2 cards for me, 2 cards for her. Okay, so 4 cards in a year, but 2 and 2. And ever since 2018 when I started, almost all of my travel has been free or near free, to include airplane tickets, rental cars, Airbnbs, meals in restaurants, and something else it seems like. But little perks like that Chase celebrity cruise, that's a little perk. They give you some extra perks with it, but you're paying $2,300. So maybe you're paying for it already. But I have, if you don't do this, and some of you don't do this, why not? My credit score seems like it keeps going up. It's up to like 810 right now. I just got a credit card the other day. Oh yeah, the Capital One Adventure X. And they gave me like a $30,000 credit limit. And my credit score dipped to like 807. Now it's back up, I think it's 810. It just keeps it's trending up. So, because what that does, if I get a $30,000 limit, which really surprised me, that gives me access to 30 grand. But if I only keep a balance down here that I pay off every month, that's unused credit. So it shows it's added to my available credit on all of my credit cards. And I pay my balance in full every month. So my available credit is getting bigger and bigger. I still selectively use credit. I still have mortgages on the books that I pay the mortgage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So my credit score keeps climbing. So if you're in the process of buying rental property, you think, oh, it'll ding my credit score. That's a true story. I was getting a mortgage one day. I think it was on my triplex. That was in 2019. And I sat in front of the loan officer and said, hey, have you run my credit yet? And she said, we're getting ready to do it in the next day or 2. I said, can you let me know, text me or email me, whatever, call me, when you run it? And she's like, why? I said, because as soon as you run it, I said, do you plan to run it a second time? She said, no. I said, as soon as you run it, I'm getting another credit card. And I told her I was going to be for travel hacking. She said, okay. And as soon as she told me she ran a credit score, I went and got the credit card and or applied for it. And I've never been denied a credit card yet. Nope, I don't think I ever have been. I can refer you to American Express. I have one American Express card. I have the one Capital One card I can refer you to. I can refer you to a bunch of different Chase cards. By referring you, you can get whatever the sign up bonus is, and then I will get some sort of like, most of them is like 10,000 points maybe or something like that. So it's win-win. You get a card, I get more points. Okay, so it's win-win. But I got some videos on Travel Hack, and I've interviewed both helicopter pilot Caleb and Lieutenant Bill. They both travel hack, and they both talked about the benefits from their perspectives of free travel. I stayed 2 free nights in Coronado Hotel out on Coronado Island in California earlier this year. I stayed at a luxury Hilton resort in the country of Panama earlier this year. That was probably the luxurious place I've ever stayed in. I think it was nice. I'm going to stay there. I haven't made the reservation yet, but I'm going to stay there 2 nights on my next trip down there. And I'll probably, if I start living in the country every year, I might just stay there 2 nights because it's luxurious. It's kind of nice. So that's what you can do with credit cards. Credit cards can help elevate your lifestyle as long as you pay the balance in full every month. I only do one little caveat, one little exception. If you get a 0 interest for bonus, like for say 12 months, 15 months, 18 months, if you're a real estate investor, and like I am and other people are, you need to do it, you can put money on that card. It's like a 0% loan for 12, 15, 18 months, maybe 24 months for some cards. But if you're just out buying stuff, don't do it. Don't do it. Just straight up, don't. I'm not telling you to do that. Don't do it. All right. Don't not ever pay your credit card full every month. All right. You got to pay in full every month. Okay. All right. So let's see right here. Bill said, thanks for sharing. Good night, everyone. Good night, Bill. Hopefully you had a great night. All Nighter said Alaska is gorgeous in the summer. Good night, Bill. And Positive Energy said hello. Positive energy. I like that name, positive energy. I love positive energy. Stay positive. Staying positive is part of staying healthy. As you keep yourself positive, you keep yourself happy, you keep yourself well fed, properly fed, you exercise, minimal stress, and you invest. And all is well with life. All right. So with that being said, gentlemen and gals, guys and gals, whoever's here, I'm going to wrap this up. I stayed here longer than I thought I would, but since I'm not going out walking, I stay longer. I do ramble at times. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for all the comments and the questions. I do appreciate it. So let me see if I can get signed out here. So as I always say, stay safe in all you do. And Mazske is signing out. And let me see if I can get signed out. Here we go. See ya. Bye.